Live? I can't tell. Oh,
Yeah.
I think we're live.
Maybe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very, very professional YouTube vlogcast and podcast. Welcome back to the Mind Meld PR show. I'm your host, the founder of Mind Meld PR, Jonathan Narvi. I'm here once again with account executive Shawnee Kotecha. And say hi, Shawnee.
Hi.
All right. Good to be here. What are we talking about today? We're going to delve into crisis PR and what's up with WhatsApp. So maybe, Shawnee, did you want to run through what has been this breaking news about WhatsApp over the last week or so, and why it's not just an incident of news, but potentially crisis PR following a PR disaster?
Yeah. So unless you're living under a rock, I guess you would have heard about WhatsApp at this point. But they introduced a 4,000 word long privacy policy, a new one. And I think the problem actually was that people might not have read it. But basically what has happened is that the media got a hold of it, social media got a hold of it. It was slightly misunderstood. People sort of took the negative parts of it without reading through the full 4,000 words. And it's resulted in thousands, millions of people flocking to other messaging platforms like Signal. I think Telegram is one. Not understanding what the new privacy policy is and how it may or may not affect them. And actually, in reality, how little it impacts most people.
Yeah. So that's a good roundup and of how this happened. And I just want to maybe jump in and say it may not be entirely all of WhatsApp's fault. We'll get into that in a bit. I'm not sure if this could have been prevented. It may be one of those things where a company is caught doing something. Again, as you say, maybe they didn't even do the thing that they're getting into trouble over. So there may be other things in the mix here that just it makes it bad timing. You outlined how this happened, and then what's been happening in the days since WhatsApp has been losing millions of users. Not a good situation for any tech company.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it's the numbers in contrast to how many people actually use WhatsApp is very small. But I think the bigger problem is the media story that it's creating around WhatsApp, because they've been known in the past for similar things. I think since they've been connected with Facebook, or even before that, there's been a lot of misinformation, there's been a lot of viral content. So they've already got this negative media landscape that they exist in. And I personally think it was a sort of wrong place at the wrong time kind of situation. The privacy policy that they put out actually only applied to businesses using WhatsApp. But one look at Twitter and you can see, ordinary people that have nothing to do with a business necessarily saying, Mark Zuckerberg can read my private chats and they've got a hold of all of my data and they're sharing things with Facebook. When in fact, none of it is true. There's a lot of confusion, and I think that's breeding misinformation around it.
So I want to differentiate, number one, as far as I understand, the concerns that people have about WhatsApp sharing the data with Facebook and potentially other third party providers dealing with Facebook. This actually does apply to business users, and but not sort of your standard non-business user. Again, they're getting into trouble for something that may not actually affect the people who are dropping off it. But there was a kernel of truth to the problems that people were talking about. And that's almost always the case when you have a case of crisis PR it's never that it's a complete lie. Like you're usually defending yourself against something that is at least true in part, and that's what makes it so dangerous. I did want to get into a little bit of what I see WhatsApp doing right, because I did say before that maybe there's nothing they could have done to prevent it, and in some cases like this, it's just bad luck of the draw. You're in the sights of whatever virtue signaling mob happens to be dominating social media this week. But I have noticed WhatsApp doing some good things to try to stem the bleeding, and so I'm talking about, number one, over communicating, communicating more than they normally would with, here's what we're trying to get. This is the real information. So they're providing quite detailed summaries of, look, this is what's actually happening, and they're doing this in blog posts, and of course they're reaching out to traditional media to get the word out. I often find that another strategy that I don't know that they're doing this, or maybe they're trying to, and it's just not picking up. But rather than just getting defensive and trying to tell your side of the story, a good thing to do is sort of change the conversation. So, if you don't want to talk about terms of service, what other positive thing does WhatsApp provide? What is the positive thing that is new that we can sort of refocus everyone's attention on? You've been looking at this closely. What's your take on WhatsApp's response over the last couple of days?
I think initially what they tried to do to begin with is something that a lot of companies get in trouble for not doing, which is transparency. So firstly, it was a 4,000 word long privacy policy, but they were being upfront with, this is how we will use your information. I think what they've done since that, I don't know if it was worked, but it's smart. Like you said, they've been posting on blogs, social media, they've bought out front pages of newspapers. But what I saw on Twitter is that they're promoting a lot of graphics. So really, it's the opposite of the 4,000 word policy. It's 3 words and a picture of Facebook with a stop sign over it. It's very obviously, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing. And looking at that, you can get it in seconds, what they're trying to get across. But I guess this wouldn't have worked in the first instance of putting it out, because you wouldn't want to start a new positive policy with the words, by the way, this isn't going to Facebook to hack your information. I think where they might have actually missed a step is highlighting the benefits for businesses, because it is actually quite a beneficial thing for businesses to use for customer service. And I think they've still skipped over that. They've still not highlighted the actual good that I'm sure there's a downside, but I think they're still missing a trick on what's the good element of this? Like, what is the super positive part of this new policy?
I think that's a fair point. And I'm curious what your take is on what I was saying before. Feel free to disagree on how much of this is sort of just manufactured by, it's the outrage mob of the week, just looking for something to get angry about. And Mark Zuckerberg, everybody hates that guy. I don't hate the guy. I mean, he's not my favorite, but, he hasn't done anything wrong to me. As well, I don't know what he's done actually with my information, but, I don't hate the guy. Anyways, how much of this do you think is people actually getting upset about, oh, you're violating my privacy, this is unprecedented, versus I'm going to stick it to the man and I'm going to show I'm all about freedom?
I don't know why, but it really just reminded me of Brexit all of a sudden, which is quite weird, because it is the same as, a banner on a bus that says, if we leave Europe, we're going to gain hundreds of millions of pounds. And it's just out of nowhere and everyone hooked onto it. And I think this is a similar thing. It's that people got attached to facts that aren't necessarily real. I feel ever so slightly sorry for WhatsApp, because I think the move they made is very similar to what Instagram did. So they combined the Instagram Messenger with Facebook Messenger so that the information is sort of transferred across and shared. WhatsApp is doing a similar thing, but actually even more conservative. It's only to do with businesses. And the reactions to that have been totally different. The one with Instagram was viewed as oh, my life will be so much easier now. And the one with WhatsApp was viewed as, this is a violation. And then, of course, to make matters worse, Elon Musk posted, use Signal on his Twitter, which meant that the millions of people following Elon Musk, with no explanation apart from use Signal, as opposed to a 4,000 word policy that was put out, they trusted the 2-word tweet over actual information.
Well,
I think
yeah.
pitted against them.
Yeah, yeah. So full disclosure, I am an Elon Musk fanboy. So, I would have taken his word over that anyway. But I think that this whole, the 4,000 word terms of service thing that we've both touched on, it's such a problem. I mean, obviously, this goes deeper than PR. It's not like you've got your marketing people writing legal terms of service. Yeah. But this goes to, when a PR person is representing a company and trying to get the good word out and create good news stories, the easier it is to explain what this thing does and how it benefits people and how awesome it is in very specific ways, the better. And the more complicated things get, the more you can get into trouble. Terms of service has been plaguing the tech industry for years, and not just giant companies that have been bought by even bigger companies like Facebook. This is just, in one sense, I understand, look, we're dealing with complicated products that integrate many kinds of technologies, and you're probably dealing with patents and trademarks, and so I understand the business challenge. You need terms of service that covers your ass. At the same time, a term of service that's 4,000 words that no one is going to read. Like, nobody ever actually reads through terms of service before clicking the I accept this terms of service, because you've got a job to do. You've got to use the app. So you get to it, and you just assume the worst. You assume you've signed away your firstborn.
I think it goes back to when we were talking about how to make tech make sense in the previous video blogcast, and it was, we spoke a lot about, you don't need to understand the ins and outs and every little bit of tech. You just need to be able to relate the benefits. And WhatsApp has done the opposite. They've given the public, these are all the details and all the little things you need to know. But at the top of that, it should have said, this is the new amazing thing we're doing that's going to make you super happy and make your life easier. And they should watch our podcast. It would help them a lot.
Well, that's good advice anytime.
Yeah.
And not to beat a dead horse, I just, I see analogies to this in laws and regulations. Like, it's not just terms of service for tech companies or terms of service generally. We've become a weird society that's just, we're used to these long contracts that nobody can understand. And this is actually, it's really bad for just trusting other people, whether you're on a tech platform or just, outside doing your own thing. If you don't know what the rules are and someone can't explain it to you, number one, you can't follow it because you literally don't understand it. No one can understand it. So you kind of suspect you might be breaking the law, or breaking the rules, but at some point you just don't care. You have to get on with your life. So yeah, so that's just sort of a rant that's a little bit outside of the PR space, but you know, as terms of service and everything else that a company has to put together to make a business work, you know, there is value to simplicity.
Yeah, I think quite an obvious mistake. I think a mistake that we would both see as obvious that WhatsApp made. Actually, no, we disagreed on this. But there's a lot of negative press around WhatsApp to begin with that already exists. And I think before they put the policy out, someone didn't take that into account. Their PR genius didn't look at the media landscape that exists in WhatsApp's little bubble and say, well, this is how we're perceived. This is when we've put out previous policies around data and Facebook, and this is how people are reacting. And that wasn't taken into consideration enough, in my opinion, because they might have been able to predict this. There's got to be at least one person that thought maybe people will react badly to a policy that we're putting out around more data usage and sharing. So I think they missed a trick there as well.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on most of that and almost all of it. And the only area where I'm sort of on the fence is that when it comes to PR and news and news trends and social media trends and you know, the outrage mobs that come through all these different platforms, you know, there's a difference between an honest critic and a dishonest critic, and I do genuinely wonder. I don't know how much of the criticism is you know, artificially manufactured, and I'm not saying by some like high up conspiracy. I'm saying at a very grassroots level, just artificial. This gives me something to do today. I'm gonna get mad. That'll keep me busy for a couple of hours. So I don't know. I did want to touch on one other aspect of PR that I think actually WhatsApp has done well, is that while they're sharing information to try to get their side out, they are not getting defensive in a sense of attacking their critics, because you don't attack the messenger. You just stick to your message, because when you get into what's the expression, when you start wrestling in the mud, you don't. Damn, I'm messing this up. When the idea is, yeah, when you get down to wrestle in the gutter or wrestle in the mud, you're not going to come out of this clean. So all you can do is put out your message, the truth that you know, that you can stand by, and this is something strong that you have, and focus on the positive, accentuate that, eliminate the negative.
Yeah. And they're facilitating a discussion instead of shooting it down, which I think, you know, on social media, on Twitter and Facebook, when everyone's having their internet arguments, that's what happens, is it becomes aggressive, it becomes unproductive. So yeah, what they're doing in terms of actually turning it into a conversation and saying, we hear you, and we're responding exactly to what you've asked us with this helpful graphic that you can share on Twitter, is a good way of doing it.
Excellent. They are trying to let the light of truth shine in from all sides, just as I am trying to let the light in. And it's you know, they're trying to not make it blinding and distracting to other observers, which I'm also failing at. So anyways, this is, you know, just one little keen observation that I thought I would share, because, you know, people see it. Okay, sorry, this is just me getting goofy. I think that pretty much.
Oh no, I have one more question for you, actually. If you were working in PR for WhatsApp and you're about to put out this privacy policy, what's, say, one big thing you would have done differently?
You know, one thing they could have done was actually interview the current CEO of WhatsApp and just have him explain in a friendly conversation, hey, we're doing this thing, and talk about, again, in plain, simple language, here's how the terms of service are going to affect people. But the news story would not be about a terms of service change. It would be about, some new ways of using WhatsApp that they're excited about, or how people are currently using WhatsApp and what's trending, and then segue to, oh, and by the way, this is how people are using WhatsApp right now, but very soon they'll be able to use it this way, or if they want to continue using it this way, they're going to have to click a yes on this new change we're making. So I'm just putting it out there. I'm actually the first to mention it, but hey, I'm the CEO, and so I want people to know. And what could be more transparent than having the founder come out and say that, without getting overly bureaucratic, analytic, or overly technical.
And doing it before an automated, unexplained message popped up on everyone's screens that just said, "Do you accept this?"
Yeah. So, and this, by the way, I just want to emphasize, this is something that comes up a lot. Like there are, because the tech sectors and email outreach and really any kind of outreach to customers is so highly regulated now, to avoid spammy messages, to avoid harassing customers and prospects. Companies have to put out these messages from time to time that are technical, and so they know these things are coming.
Yeah.
And to the extent that they can prepare for them, they should. I'm sure everything. I'm sure they thought they were doing the right thing. And again, I don't know. Maybe they got unlucky. Maybe it was a bad week. Maybe there was not another distraction to save them. But they're doing some good things to try to turn this around. So good luck to them. I'm not an investor in WhatsApp. I have no money in it. Full disclosure, I think I've only used WhatsApp like 3 or 5 times in my life, and that probably I think you use it quite a bit more.
Yeah, I do, but I'm not bothered by these things. I don't use Facebook enough for them to make a difference in my life, so it's all good.
Yeah. So we can be neutral commentators on this to give you the real deal, the info that you need to know about crisis PR and what's up with WhatsApp. That's been what we've been talking about today. Thank you very much, Shawnee. It's always a pleasure, and let's get back to work. All right. See you, everyone.